After my personal struggle with food left me sick and suicidal, I was struck with the realization that food alone can't fix us. So I set out to discover what could, and what I found changed everything. After coaching thousands of clients and interviewing the world's leading experts, I realized it was time to start a bigger conversation. What are you really hungry for?
It's great.
Ooh, good one.
What am I really hungry for?
I love that question.
It's time to discover what you're really hungry for. We hear all the time that you can have it all, that a woman can be a CEO, the best mother in the world, the troop leader, the head of their Bible study, keep her house spick and span, be the best wife in the world, and a sexual dynamo to boot. But is this really realistic? Can women really have it all, at least in the ways that we've been taught to think about having it all? We expect ourselves to be all things to all people, to take on the top leadership role in every organization, to head up every donation drive and bake sale, to do everything from scratch, whether that's sewing your daughter's pageant costume or cooking that meal from scratch for your sick relative. But when is enough enough? When is having it all too much? And how can we still feel as though we have everything we need in life without the pressure of trying to be perfect? I think in many ways, the main issue is the way we think about having it all. Who says that we have to be all things to all people? Who says that your having it all is the same as mine? For some women, having it all means flying on a G6 personal plane, wearing Louboutin shoes, and shopping without looking at the prices. For other women, it means having a successful career that they're passionate about while traveling the world and living in a new country every 2 months. Still, other women might feel that having it all means having a career that they love, but only needing to work part-time so that they can be there when their kids get home from school. They can volunteer for organizations that really light them up, and they can be an active part of their community. While still other women feel that teaching other people how to thrive while living off the grid on a farm and communing with nature is ideal. As you can see, having it all means drastically different things to different people. So the topic of today's show is perfection. We've got it in our heads at a certain point that we have to be all things to all people, that we have to keep everyone else happy and sacrifice ourselves and our own needs in order to make things happen everywhere else. But I don't think that's true. It's like the old saying, you can't serve from an empty vessel. Without taking care of yourself and nurturing yourself, mind, body, and soul, you're just going to burn out and run out of juice. You're not going to have anything left to give to others, let alone feel good about yourself and be able to relax into a state of flow. When we try to be all things to all people, when we strive for perfection, when we think we have to do it all, to have it all, we become super stressed. The whole point of life is to enjoy the journey, not just to rack up accomplishments and get to the end saying, look at me, I accomplished way more than anyone else did. No one sits on their deathbed wishing that they had accomplished more, that they had done more, that they had worked harder. No, the top concerns of those who are on their deathbed is that they wish they'd spent more quality time with their family. They wish they'd allowed themselves to be happier, and they wished that they had slowed down and not worked quite so much. So my question for this week's guest, Gina DeVee, is whether having it all is sometimes too much. And do we strive for perfection at the expense of our health and happiness, or is there a way around this? Gina DeVee is a world-class business coach and trains successful coaches in the academy. She knows a thing or two about having it all, and in fact, she believes that having it all is every woman's legacy. So, Gina, can women really have it all, and should they? It's a big question.
It is controversial, much to my surprise, because it's just what I've always lived for, strived for, and enjoyed. But I'll hear women say, you can't have it all, and I was like, says who? And people say, we can't have it all, but at the same time, and I'm like, what blogs are you reading? Because it's not mine. And I think, first of all, every woman has to define what it is, what having it all is to her, and then, yes, absolutely.
So So then how do we have it all? Because, I mean, to have it all is a lot. And you're right, it does depend on the woman, right? Because my idea of success or having it all might be totally different from yours even, you know, and probably is. But how do we go about having it all without ending up with a nervous breakdown as a birthday present?
Yeah, I don't do nervous breakdowns. I try to limit disorders of any kind. And what it is being clear on your desires, you know, and the statistics are that only 1 in 100 people actually know what they want. And then it shows, right? Because people are just kind of working and they're just busy and they're just going after things that aren't even important to them. You know, I've never had the experience of striving, achieving, getting something, having an experience, and then saying, is that all there is? Like, I hear women say that all the time. I'm like, what are you doing? Like, I'm thrilled with my accomplishments or whatever it was I was going for. But I think that's one of the things I always really check in on are what are my true desires? And it is hard. I mean, I'm even tempted to get distracted with like, I mean, it takes 4 seconds on a Facebook news feed to be like, I should write a book, or I should pitch a TV show, or, you know, I should sell out a program or do a live event or try and get in the Wall Street Journal. You know, it's like, you're like, well, what am I in the Wall Street Journal for? Like, so really getting clear on what really is your dream life and what is rocking it out to you, and letting that be enough and letting that be it all.
See, that's interesting. So do you feel like people, women especially, because women are people pleasers, right? We just want everyone to like us all the time. Do you think it's that we get caught up in trying to have or do or be what other people think we should do or be or have?
That's a great question. I think that would be a lot of it, because if you're if your automatic default mode and is unconscious, it's like, well, what does someone else want me to do? Or what do I need to do to be liked or approved of or accepted by others? Then you're not asking, what do I want? And I know, you know, as a transformational coach, when I ask a client, you know, like, what do you want? You just see women like stop. It's like, they like can't even remember the last time someone asked them that. And so I think for us to like, you know, especially women who are wives or mothers or, you know, working their own business, they're always giving to others. And it's so important that we develop a healthy sense of self where we're checking in first with us. Like, what do we want? What are we going for? And then everything revolves around that.
I think that's interesting. So checking in, seeing what we want, right? I get that. For people who are watching who are like, they just heard you in a big way and they're like, whoa, what do I want? Because I don't know what I want.
Well, the first thing I tell them is that they're lying.
Oh,
Because
liars.
I believe that every woman does know what she wants. Now, she might need a little space or a little journaling time or some meditation or go for a walk to check in and give herself a little space to ask. But I don't believe anyone else out there is smarter than she is. That when you give a woman just enough space or just ask a few follow-up questions, and you can do this with a coach, you can do it on yourself. Just like, what do I want? I don't know. Okay, well, let's do a Tony Robbins. If I did know, what would it be? And just like, what do I really desire? And the answers are all there, and we just have to give them attention.
What if a woman wakes up one day and she says, I don't want to be married to this man anymore. I don't want this life. I mean, if I'm really being honest, I don't want this life, this husband, these friends, this job. That's a big deal.
It is, and it takes so much courage and bravery. You know, I know it was done before Eat, Pray, Love, but I think that Elizabeth Gilbert really made it mainstream to show what it looks like for a woman to be human and to be honest with herself. And it's not a new story. It's women have been courageous women, radical women, women outside the traditional pockets have been doing that for centuries. But they were outcasts, or they were called witches, or they were, you know, shoved out of the community. And I think that there's such a I think we're living at the best time in the history of the world, because there are so many options for us, from technology to how we do life. And I respect and value tradition to the degree that it serves, but not to the degree that it's doing it just the way, because it's been done that way before.
Talk to me about divine living. What does divine living mean? Because it sounds like I want a little something of that. I just don't know what it is yet.
Divine living is having a divinely inspired life and career, if that's a woman's choice, as well as having a divine living lifestyle. One of the other things that I stopped apologizing for was choosing to be a leader in the personal development, transformational coaching industry, and having a great love for luxury lifestyle. And when I was growing up and when I was being educated about psychology and personal development and spirituality, the judgment about luxury and lifestyle, they were materialistic and they were shallow, those people that wore Valentino.
And certainly not spiritual.
And they certainly were not spiritual. And I was like, so for a while it was just I squelched those desires because I certainly wasn't going to be anything but profound and substantive and smart and all that stuff. And then how smart or profound is it to squelch your desires? And I had to get really real that both are very true for me. And so that's really what divine living is about. We enjoy meaningful, substantive, spiritually, divinely led lives, and we fully embrace, support, and celebrate our own and each other's luxurious lifestyles.
That's amazing. Gina, I feel like you have it all. And do you feel that way?
I feel like I have a very happy life. I guess, having it all, I do have everything that I desire right now, and I have additional desires that I'm working on, and I'm very happy and fulfilled in my life right now.
I think that's great. I think one of the things that comes up, and I wonder if you've seen this, when women start trying to have it all, oftentimes they feel like they can't, or oftentimes they feel like they have to sacrifice something to have it all, which is not really having it all, I guess. But do you feel like there's anything that maybe you've had to sacrifice for having what you have now and being really happy with what you have now?
Zero.
Nothing.
Zero.
Wow.
I've owned my company for about 10 years now. I have never worked one day even remotely sleep deprived. I refuse. I'm Italian. People think I'm a workaholic. I am not. I'm highly driven. I enjoy my sleep. I enjoy a very pleasurable life. My computer in the early days was shut off at 8. Now it's shut off at 6. I don't work evenings. So, when necessary, I'll work a Saturday. So I've never suffered a health condition or, stressed myself out in that way. And look, it's not all, there's no balance. Don't get me wrong, and don't misperceive what I'm talking about. Like, I'm an extremist and I work hard, play hard, but if any level of sacrifice feels like it's coming in, I shift it pretty quickly because I have a very low tolerance to pain. Spiritual, physical, mental, emotional, or otherwise.
I feel like sometimes when we talk about having it all, sometimes people say you can have it all, you just don't have to do it all.
Yes.
You believe that?
You cannot do it all to have it all.
Tell me more.
Like, to have it all, you absolutely cannot do it all. This comes down to core value, what women's choices are. Everyone has the choice to create a solution. So whether a woman is a mother and she's overwhelmed with all of her responsibilities, I don't no excuses policy here. We like no complaint central. It's what do you choose to do? What do you want to do? And then what does someone or something else need to do? I work a lot with women entrepreneurs, and I say, you do not always have to be working on your business, but someone or something does if you want to be getting the level of success that they're typically coming to me for. So it's being smart about things. Like, I'm very results oriented, but I no longer have the slave girl mentality that I used to have, that if it was going to get done, I had to be the one to do it.
Yeah. Yeah. I think whether it's in business or life in general, women think that, even mothers,
Right.
Sometimes I've seen this with friends and family. They try to delegate it to the dad or the spouse or whatever. And they're like, oh, just forget it. Like if they ask a question, hey, I'm making the kids lunch. Which bread do I use? And like, oh, just forget it. I'll just do it. And they're like, no, I want to help. No, I got this. It's like we have to do it all because it has to be right, and right being the way we would do it.
Yeah, I'm not a control freak. I am not a perfectionist. I do have a standard, and I want things done the way I want them done, but I have chosen my living life in a pleasurable way and my sanity versus needing to pick what kind of bread someone uses.
But it could have gluten in it. This is a big deal.
Well, like I said, there are certain standards.
Yeah, I'm with you on the standards. You mentioned a word that I want to explore with you, perfection. Because I feel like some people look at someone like yourself, who's obviously beautiful and successful. You have it all. I think people would look at you and say, you have it all. You're perfect. And there's this whole thing around being perfect. And I think for a long time, we've set the standard of being perfect. I don't even know what it means, by the way.
Right.
And I'm sure it's different to everyone, right? It has to be. But we try to achieve this idea of perfection. And it's been really, really hard. And your health has suffered, family has suffered. We've all experienced that. And so what I've seen lately is this sort of this shying away from being perfect and this attack on perfection, like it's this horrible thing. And maybe it is, maybe it isn't. I guess it depends on your definition. But when people look at you and they say, well, to have it all, I have to be perfect. And I don't want that. It's driving me away. What do you say?
Yeah, I know what having it all in terms of having a great life is. I have no idea what it is to be perfect. And anyone who has studied me, even virtually, let alone in person, would know that I actually really embrace my humanness. So I'm not even trying for whatever that is. Back in the, before I had a team of proofreaders, there were like typos in my mailers that would go out. I mean, we want to call a spade, do a little Google search on what my brand used to look like. I've always been a lover of life, and I've been more excited about, I'm a recovering codependent. So I did have a very fierce attachment to people liking me and approving of me and accepting me. And that has been one of my bigger journeys of learning to feel safe in the world without needing to look perfect or be right all the time. So that healing that has broken me open to, I'm not asking for it, but, embracing criticism or any of the imperfections. And something will come to me like, yeah, you're right. That's a most excellent point, where before that you would have taken me out, or I would have gotten defensive or felt ashamed or less than. I feel so much more free in my humanness is what I call it.
Free in your humanness. I love that. I love it. So in terms of, again, having it all, which is what we're talking about, women, I found, sometimes feel guilty over, not even over having it all, over just wanting to have it all. So what do you say to those women to get them to sort of shift their perspective and their way of thinking?
Sure. I mean, I remember where I came from. So it's I haven't been P. Diddying it or Trumping it my whole life, and not quite there yet either. But, I'm a school teacher's kid from Detroit. So we weren't poor, but we weren't rich. And I was, just like in yoga, strength grows in increments, right? And so when I struggled a lot financially, I was in debt. I had all kinds of lack of self-worth, and can I do this, and is it spiritual, and is it okay? And so I think it just goes back to self-permission and being clear on your desires. And I remember when I first started making a little bit of money that I hadn't gotten a manicure in so long. And it wasn't even at a really fancy, expensive spa, but it was just like, wow, I desired a manicure. So it was a shift for me to just let myself have whatever the next step is. And I think it doesn't matter how many, it's not even necessarily about money, and it doesn't matter how many zeros are behind it or how expensive the suite is, but it's about, for each of us as women, what is our next step of expansion, of being more us. For me, at one point, it was allowing myself to get a manicure. Fast forward a decade, it's letting myself have the suite. That doesn't matter as much as I think that we are allowing ourselves to become more us every day.
I love that, because that's who we're supposed to be, and that's beautiful. And I would say that's perfection in my mind.
Very cool. That kind of perfection I'll do.
All day long and then some. Gina, you're amazing. Thank you so much for being here. One question that I've asked every guest on the show, the name of the show is What You're Really Hungry For. So I'm curious, what are you really hungry for?
My driving force right now is women's empowerment. And I'm really hungry to share what I know now with the Ginas of 10, 15 years ago, and even in a more expansive way globally. This isn't a secret anymore. It doesn't need to be a secret. I know how much my own life has transformed. For me, it was through building a business, but it was really going for my truth. And I'm really hungry for more women like us who haven't always had the chance to live our best lives, to be able to do so. So that's my driving force and what I'm hungry for at Divine Living.
Nice. I love that answer. I love it. Gina, you know I love you and the work that you do, and the fact that you're giving women all over the globe permission to step into the perfection that they already are and to claim their worth and to pursue their dreams, I think is some of the most profound work that's being done in this day and age. So I applaud you, and I just send you the deepest love and gratitude. So thank you for all that you do, and thank you for being here.
Oh, it's such a pleasure and so wonderful to see you again.
You as well. This week is all about learning and striving for perfection, and how having it all isn't the same for everyone. So I invite you to choose one of Gina's tips that she discussed during our show and start implementing it in your life today. What one thing can you do to start letting yourself off the hook and stop feeling like you have to have it all right at this moment? Don't wait another day or even another hour. Start letting go of being perfect right now. As always, the conversation continues at CynthiaPasquella.com. Head on over and leave a comment below this video telling me the one thing that you will do to start having it all today. And while you're there, make sure you download today's free menu to track your progress. You'll find inspirational quotes from today's show and a daily checklist to keep you on track. It's located right below this video at CynthiaPasquella.com. Did you like this video? If you did, please subscribe. And I would also be very grateful if you would share this video with your friends. And if you want to hear more from me, including stuff that I only talk about in email, then come on over to CynthiaPasquella.com and sign up for my email newsletter so you can be a part of this beautiful community of women who are discovering what they're really hungry for. This episode is brought to you by the Institute of Transformational Nutrition. Discover the secrets to becoming a go-to expert in nutrition coaching while making great money on the side or even enjoying a new career at www.transformationalnutrition.com. On next week's episode of What You're Really Hungry For, mastering moments moves mountains. What does that mean?
We all have these definitive defining moments. Like something comes to a head and you have to make a choice. And it's those moments that determine everything in life.